Welcome to the SOB Radio Show, where we have fun, interesting guests, and hot topics. Each week, we offer insights into music, fashion, health, fitness, and humor. Do you have the perfect guest for us to interview? I want to know. Drop me a line on our Facebook page at Spunky Old Broad 1 or reach out to me on our website at spunkyoldbroad.com. And now, back to the show.
Hi, everybody. This is Gayle Carson. And hopefully you know who I am by this time, but if not, I am a host on a few of the radio shows that you listen to, the Women in Business Show and Living Regret Free, and of course, the founder of SOBradio.com and a lot of other things that we're doing at this point. And it occurred to me that it might be important for you to understand why you need to get on radio and why you need to be on TV and in media generally. Now, I do a lot of blogging. I do a lot of, I'm not an expert at all by any means in social media, but I try to see where there are opportunities to be quoted and so forth. So I deal with, Harrow, help a reporter out and so forth. And I can honestly say that between the broadcasting that I do and the writing that I do, that I am probably in the media 300 out of 365 days a year. That's a lot. And I'm always being asked to be a guest columnist or to contribute to an idea or actually be a guest on someone else's radio show or webinar and so forth. So I want to talk about all of those different things because they are all a part of building your name, what you are and what you're all about. So let's take, since this is a radio show, let's talk about the radio first. Now, I'm always asked when I ask a guest to be on one of my shows, well, is this real radio? And I say, well, what do you mean by real radio? And they said, and I never had heard of this word before, I'll be very honest with you, terrestrial radio. And I say, and that what they really mean by terrestrial radio is, a station that you can turn to that broadcasts, and you can get it in your car, and you can listen to it in your home and off of an actual radio. And I say, no, it isn't. However, what has been shown to be true is that your radio shows that are a little different, that don't come from terrestrial radio, actually are listened to more than radio, because terrestrial radio that is on your dial, when somebody says something, you can't get it back again. It's not recorded. You can't put it on your website. You can't tangibly look at it. And so, yes, you can be interviewed live, but that doesn't mean anybody remembers it. In the broadcasting, the radio shows that are not on terrestrial radio, they are really more popular because people download it when they want. They can download it from any kind of device they have. And some of them, like our shows, are on AHA Radio, and they can be listened to in the car, and they are downloaded a lot. And then they become what's called podcasts. You've all heard about podcasts, and they're downloaded even more. Now, it's not as easy to track an audience with these shows, but people listen to them and they become fans. There are people who regularly follow me. There are people who regularly follow a lot of the other people I know who are doing shows. And so it's still a very popular means. And what happens, at least with my guests, we send them a recording, a link to the recording of the show. They can put it on their website. They can use it in a lot of different ways. If they want to send it to a client, a potential client, they can do that. I mean, there are so many ways that you can use these things. So that's one of the reasons why I believe, whether it's terrestrial radio or not, it's important. And I want to tell you, it's interesting. I work with a lot of PR agencies who send me their people to be on the shows. Some of them get it. And they don't care that it's not a terrestrial radio station. And some of them say, great, because their clients get a recording and they can use it whatever way they want. At least with my shows, they can do that. Now, how does this relate to TV? Well, I do a lot of TV, not the Today Show and not Good Morning America, but I go all over the country doing local shows. Now, why do I do that? Because I'm certainly not, if I'm in Albuquerque, I'm not necessarily working in Albuquerque. And if I'm doing a show in Fargo, North Dakota, I'm not working in Fargo, North Dakota, which, by the way, is the only state in the United States. I have spoken in 49 states, 50 countries and 49 states. And the only state I haven't spoken in is North Dakota because they just have not seen a use for me yet. However, if I am on these different shows locally, it's still credible. I mean, some of those hosts in these local towns are pretty good. And what I have done is I have gotten a clip from the station, and then I put that together in what's called a sizzle reel. So I have a sizzle reel that introduces me when I speak, that is on my website, that I use when I need to, when somebody says, well, do you have something of yourself, speaking, I send out the sizzle reel. And when they see me doing 8, 10 different shows and, that I do well on them, and I'm speaking, by the way, on a particular subject, then it is, it's impressive to them. So it is also, though, expensive. I will tell you it is expensive because what you're doing is you're paying for, your airline ticket, you're paying for your hotel that you're staying in and any meals that you eat. And what happens if there's a breaking news story? For example, let's say you're booked on something in the morning and there's some big local disaster. They're going to kick you off because they've got to cover that. Or let's say, there's a big crisis worldwide. They're going to use that. And most of these shows, by the way, are between 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. There are some companies that, organizations like I was in a town in Texas, and their major talk time was in the afternoon at 4 o'clock. But that's very unusual. Most of the time it's in the morning. And so what happens is you're kicked off. You may not be on the next day because they've already got that booked, and you spent all that time, energy, and money for nothing. However, and then I also pay to get those clips done. So every time I get a clip, it's $75. So it's not cheap, but it is worth it if this is your profession because it is impressive. I will tell you, it is impressive. But when we talk about media, it's not only radio, it's not only television. And of course, print is something that lasts longer and that you can reproduce, but there's far and far less magazines out there. But there is a lot of online publications that you probably don't even know about. A lot of blogs, a lot of things like that. You can take that information, you can copy that information, and again, incorporate that as an add-on on your website. And you can have what I have on my website is a special media page, and they can go there and they can see the TV shows, they can hear the radio shows, they can see the articles that I've written, things like that. So, it's coming from a lot of different directions. You're not living anymore in a cocoon, and you have to be out there everywhere. I mean, you've just got to have these prongs out there, almost like spider legs that are working all the time, getting you all this contact information and being able to speak to it. And if you are a specialist, it's even better. I used to speak on leadership and team building and customer service, and I was extremely well known for leadership and customer service. Those are my two big areas. In fact, Australia has an Australian Customer Service Summit. They brought me over as the keynoter for that in Melbourne, and they named the whole conference after my program. They licensed the name from me, and because it was such an unusual thing. It was how to turn customer service into an ongoing profit center, and they loved that. So they went ahead and licensed it, and I really didn't want to go over there for a 30-minute keynote because that's a 32-hour journey. But my son had a home in New Zealand, and I thought, well, if I can piggyback it with that, then my husband will come with me, and we'll see his place and so forth. And that's exactly what I did. But it was a long trip for a very short speech. But again, they paid me, and they licensed the name, so it was profitable for me. But it's just something to think about. And if you are a specialist, you'll get a reputation in that industry. Well, when I stopped doing the 135 programs a year, and I decided to switch what I was doing and work with women 50 plus, then I started a whole new adventure as the SOB, the spunky old broad. And, it's really, really interesting because I started to speak to women's conferences. I started to speak, and I became a specialist in the over 50 market. And recently I did a program for the East Bay Women's Conference where I spoke on reinventing yourself, because I'm also known as the Queen of Reinvention. And so the keynoter was Jill Biden, the Vice President's wife, and it was quite an honor to be a part of that committee, that was chosen, or speakers that were chosen to speak. And there were 500 women there. I think they had to cap it at 500 because, of the space that they had. But it was well attended, and it was really a privilege to speak. And when I said, well, how did you hear about me? And they said, this is exactly what they said. Well, you're everywhere. So that's kind of what you want. And if you do radio, if you do TV, if you do blogging, if you do write articles, if you are quoted as an expert in whatever it happens to be, people will start calling you. So that's the whole reason for, having this, what people call media blitz, because people will get to know your name. And the thing is, and this is the uncomfortable part of it, you think, well, gosh, I'm famous now, so I can just stop. Because tomorrow there is somebody coming up to claim your spot. Now, you have to look. Let's take singers. I think that's a really great example. How many hundreds and thousands of singers are in the world? And whenever you see somebody like a Carrie Underwood, or you see somebody like, any of the singers that are up there and doing well, whether it's a Lady Gaga or whether it's, anyone else. The whole point is, you think, wow, how could anyone ever get there? And guess what? The next day, a new singer pops up and is welcomed and becomes well known. And if you'll notice, many of the country stars, they'll start out by either background for other singers, or they'll write music for other singers, or they'll be an opening act for a more famous person. And then the next year at the Country Music Awards, they're in the spotlight. So the whole point of this is, as many singers as there are out there, and you think it's just saturated, and, your parents will tell you, oh, there's so many out there, how are you going to make it? And then you're saying to yourself, wow, there's so much competition out there. I can tell you that there's always room for one more, if you are outstanding and if you are different and unique and so forth. So it's a key to why you have to keep doing this media, because that's how people remember you. And you can't fade out of the limelight as famous as you are, because people forget. People have very short memories. So I want you to think about all of this, because I know it's tedious. And of course, once you do very well, you can hire somebody to book you or to make these contacts for you. I always think it's better when you think of, you talk to a person yourself, but they can weed out what's really true and what isn't true. They can say, do you need someone for this particular kind of segment? There is a format to making a segment proposal for a TV show. I mean, it's not like you're, again, a famous person who is coming out with a new movie, so you are automatically booked on these shows. The publicity agents and the press agents for these actresses and actors, they're the ones that contact. That's why on the same day, you'll see a particular person on Good Morning America, and then they go over to Kelly Ripa's show, and Kelly and Ryan, and then they're on The View. And so they do this whole media blitz in 1 or 2 days, and then they may go to another network, and they'll be on the Today Show, and then they'll be on the show that follows that. So, but there's a PR person doing that for them because they can afford it. They're paying big bucks to these people, and it's also part of the budget for the movie. You're not that person. You are you, and you are promoting you and your message. And so you've got to do this yourself or have someone who's on your own staff do it. But it takes a lot. It really takes a lot. But it can't be, you just can't minimize what you get from being on a talk show, whether it's a radio show or a TV show. And you can't minimize whether it is terrestrial radio or a radio show that's on the internet. And the other thing is, a talk show reaches so many people. Your internet shows go to hundreds of countries. Our shows go to 148 different countries. That's a lot. That's a lot. And when I interview people, I've interviewed people all over the world. I've interviewed people from Israel, from Saudi Arabia, from Australia, from England, from all over, because they, you can do that with your ability today with Skype and Zoom and all of these other things. You can interview people anywhere. So that's the blessing of why you really need that media exposure. And when I talk about media, remember, I'm talking about radio, talking about television, I'm talking about print articles or articles online. I am talking about blogs. I'm talking about all these different areas where people can find you. And depending on the industry that you're in, and depending on, the demographic, the age range of the people who are your market, you've got to find out where they're listening. And when I say listening, I don't just mean radio and TV. I mean listening, whether it's a blog, but just seeing your information. It is so important. And so you really do need to create a media plan. You've got to create something that says, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Maybe I'm going to get up every day an hour earlier and I'm going to write something that's going to be published. LinkedIn, you can't get more professional than LinkedIn. And they're featuring articles now that people have written. And that gets the interest of someone who's higher up, because your senior executives are going to LinkedIn to find the contacts that they want. And they'll look. And if you have the article that, speaks to them, it talks about what they're interested in, and it's got a kind of a different twist to it, they are going to be interested in finding out who you are and more about you. So it's really a key thing when, you say, oh man, this is a lot of work. You bet. It is a lot of work. And if you do it in the morning when you get up, or you do it during lunch, or you do it late in the day or at night, that's your deal. But the point is, it's got to be done. And, people think I'm crazy when I do all of this stuff, but I do it because I know that's the only way to keep my name in front of the public. And I have to tell you, I'm one of those people that I get on Google and I go and I say, well, whatever happened to, and then I'll write in, an old movie star, or I'll write in a speaker that I used to work with. I'm going through all these boxes in my storage unit, and I'm coming across names of people that were on programs with me that I don't even know where they are anymore. I never hear about them. And I do that because out of sight, out of mind. And out of sight means that I don't hear about you anymore. So there's got to be something. There's got to be something in what you do that really brings you to the attention of people who are interested in hiring you. And in your research, as you're doing this, you are going to get a lot of ideas. You are going to get a lot of information, because when I do these things, I'm always amazed. People that I've never heard of that are in the news, because they put themselves there, or people that I do know that I never knew did certain things, but they have done that. And the other thing that you're going to find is, as you start doing this, you're going to find out what people want more and more and more. In other words, maybe you've been talking about a particular subject and you thought that was, really great and so forth. And you know what? Nobody wants it anymore. Nobody cares anymore. I'm always amazed that people still talk about how, well, I'm not surprised they talk about why time management is so important. But gosh, I was teaching time management 40 years ago. And I can't believe that there are still people saying, well, I really need to know how to manage my time better. Well, yeah, you probably do. But, we've been teaching that for years and years and years. And there are people that are still not getting it. So what is it that you can tell them that's different? What is it? Is it that your cell phone is constantly ringing and constantly texting you messages, and that's eating up your time? Is it the fact that you spend time online too much? Is it the fact that you get distracted by bright, shiny objects, of which there's hundreds every day? I mean, there's just so many things that, come into your life. The media will help you. So think of it as radio, whatever kind it is, TV, whether it is local or national, blogging, which is online, or they call they now have vlogs, which are video blogs, whether you're doing that, which is a form of broadcasting, again, whether or not you are a guest in somebody else's blog or a guest writer in a publication. All of those things are media. And those are the things that make you well-known and that make you someone who is interesting. And as times change, for example, when I was in Phoenix, I worked with ABC and NBC there. And one of them, they wanted what my subject was, which was the 3 worst mistakes to make when starting a second career. And that was a talking head kind of thing, even though I used props, and I tied in with celebrities and all the things you're supposed to do. And it was a very interesting segment. I had a great host there. But the afternoon station did not want that. They wanted something with activity. Well, I really didn't have anything with activity. So I thought, well, what could I do for the over 50 market? And many of you know I'm a big exerciser. So I had my exercise stuff with me, and I said, well, why don't we do a workout for seniors over 50 from a chair? And that's what I did. I showed how to do biceps and triceps and chest and legs, all while seated, using my bands that I carry with me and water bottles, stress weights, and things like that. But they loved it. And believe it or not, the executive director of the National Speakers Association, which is based out there, saw it. And he said, wow, Gayle, I had turned on the TV and there you were. So you never know who's going to be watching you. And you just got to be ready. You have to be ready with whatever it is that they want, because if they want something with activity, then you've got to figure it out. And sometimes you're not right. You're not right for the station. The market may be a different demographic than you are. They might be just not the thing for you. And so it's important that you have everything ready to go. And if you are a pro, you should be able to do that. So those are some of my tips, for why media is so important. And I know I may be preaching to the choir, but I can tell you it's a never-ending process. And, you could hire an intern who could do this for you. As I said, you can have a VA who can help you with it. You might have a permanent staff member or someone in your organization who could do it for you. But in the end, you're going to have to talk to the people yourself to sell them on you. And so I just thought it was really important, because I know many of you follow what I do and how I do it, that you understand what's involved in getting media coverage. It isn't, oh gosh, aren't I lucky it's by happenstance. It isn't by lightning striking. It isn't by someone magically calling you. I mean, maybe any of those things could happen, but it's really a plan. It's really a dedicated plan of how you do what you do, why you do what you do, why people need to know what you do, because it's that important, and getting your word out there. And the one good thing about media like radio or television is once they know you're an expert in something, they'll call you again. and you will be their resident go-to person, and you can't get better than that. That is just fantastic. So I hope that this was enlightening for you. Once again, if you want to get in touch with me, you can go to my website, which is spunkyoldbroad.com. You can email me at Gayle, Gayle, Carson 13 at gmail.com. I would love to talk to you if you have any questions on this. These are my areas of expertise, and I know that, if I can help you in any way, that's what I'm all about too. So have a great day, enjoy it, and start watching the publicity that's going on around you and all the media that's going on around you and see where you would fit. Thanks for listening.